Welcome to the Glenn Beck program. Tonight, the game plan. I'm going to begin showing you a document and the minds behind that document who are still part of the power structure today. I found this a couple of weeks ago, and I talked about it last week on the radio, and we've been preparing some things for you. I believe this document reveals the motive behind many of the actions that we're seeing today in this administration. I told you yesterday there is a war being waged, but this war is not about bullets. This one is about ideas, and ideas that are in direct contradiction to what our founders wished. Whether you wish to accept it or not, America right now is being presented with a choice. Are we going to be a country based on the idea of liberty and individual freedom, or are we all socialists now? Which ideals is the question you have to ask yourself in the next 3 days. Which ideals do the actions of this administration more closely resemble? Do they resemble redistribution of wealth, globalism, big government Marxism, class and race warfare, or the ideals of individual liberty, personal responsibility, free market, and the freedom to succeed or fail? Which one? Now, use this. We'll come back to it in the next couple of days. I need you to use this along with your reason and common sense. Some things are not provable. God is not provable. But can we prove beyond a reasonable doubt? Well, you're going to have to make that choice. I want to ask you now to set your DVR. I want you to record this show in the next 3 nights, and I want you to pass it on with your friends. I believe this is important for you to decide. This is a 3-day journey that we're going to be on. And in the end, you have to decide. Which one? Your choice. We begin now. Yeah. Hello, America. Hang on. Still working. You can call anytime. All right, this is the document. This is the document I've asked you to read. It's been on the website at glennbeck.com now for a couple of weeks. I believe this document explains the reason for many of the actions that we are seeing from this administration, because I can't make sense of it. This document is from June 18th, 1969. It's the manifesto from the weatherman. Now, I have to tell you, if somebody would hand this to me in the street and say, hey, Glenn, you got to read. And I would also think this is ancient history. But if you don't know history, you won't know where we've been, where we are, or where we're headed. This manifesto, when you read it, sounds crazy to the average person. It does. But as you read it, I know I read it in bed one night, and I kept waking my wife up. Honey, 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 listen to this. It sure sounds an awful lot like the things that we're doing. And there are people in and around this administration who not only wrote this, but they still buy into the philosophy contained in these pages. You need to judge by their actions. Can you remember a time ever where there are so many Americans, including the president, have labeled America the bad guy? How many apology tours has the president gone on all around the world? There's one thing to talk amongst ourselves and say, hey, we got some problems, because we do. But it's everywhere. It's in the media. It's in the administration. There's even a new movie coming out based on Captain America, the comic hero. But according to the director of the movie version of Captain America, quote, we want to make sure that Captain America serves his country, but he's not some sort of jingoistic American flag waver. He's Captain America. I mean, if he's just waving American principles, I'm cool with that. But even Superman isn't doing that anymore. If you watch the last Superman movie, they changed the line, truth, justice, and the American way, to truth and justice. That's it. Where has this hatred for America come from? How is it so prevalent? Why is it in our universities, and what's happening to our children? Well, the people who share the ideology found in this manifesto are still in the power circles. It was submitted by a handful of weatherman radicals, most notably Bill Ayers. Most of America hears Bill Ayers now, and they're like, whatever, Bill Ayers. Please, America, please listen to this. Bernadine Dorn also, and Jeff Jones. I'm going to show you who they were and where they are now, and then what they believed. And in the next few days, does it match up to what's happening? First, you have to understand that the Weathermen were an offshoot of the radical group Students for a Democratic Society. Remember this, SDS. They formed in 1969, and their main goal for their revolution was, quote, the destruction of U.S. imperialism and the achievement of classless world communism, and to achieve the dictatorship of the proletariat. Got it? In it, and we'll lay it out for you in the next few days, they talk about Cloward and Piven, which we have told you about. That's collapsing the system from within. And this is important because it's either the weirdest darn coincidence or it's exactly where we're headed intentionally. People in the media will say that these people are not directly connected to the White House, but you've heard what people in the media have said lately. Do you trust them anymore? They won't ask one important question. Have the views from the radicals of the 60s and the 70s and the 80s and the 90s, and some of them still in the 2000s, have they changed their mind? What was their pivot point? That's what we were looking for in the charade. Wasn't it? In the charade case, weren't we looking for her pivot point? Where is their pivot point? You see, these guys, there was much more than just racism. Oh, racism was involved, but they wanted to destroy our entire system. Now, what caused them to act this way? If you look at the individuals, you have Jeff Jones. He grew up in California. His dad worked for Walt Disney, was a pacifist, conscientious objector to the war. But his beliefs were not well thought out yet and well formed, and so he was easily swept into the radical movement when he went to college in 1965. Then there's Bernadine Dorn. Remember these names because they appear again in very, very recent history. Bernadine Dorn, she grew up in Wisconsin. She was an upper-class suburb. She attended college. It was also the time that she was first known to dive into radicalism. She's known for uttering this unfortunate statement about the Charles Manson murders. Quote, dig it. First they killed those pigs, then they ate dinner in the same room with them, then they even shoved a fork into the victim's stomach. Wild, end quote. Dorn, now a respected member of society, later says she was lucky they didn't kill anyone. Well, apparently Dorn doesn't consider Terry Gold, Terry Robbins, and Ayers' girlfriend, Diana Oughton, people, because those three died in a premature explosion of some bombs that they were making in 1970. Dorn was also on an FBI top 10 most wanted list from 1970 to 1973. She's a sweetheart. Bill Ayers grew up in an upper-middle-class suburb of Illinois. His dad was the CEO of a giant utility company, Commonwealth Edison. He attended an exclusive prep school, and maybe that's why he uses such fancy language now. Yeah, he's a professor, you know. But he said he hated every minute of it there. He liked free thought, man. And he found at the University of Michigan that they had free thought. Ayers was key in turning towards militancy. Now he says about the bombings that he doesn't have anything to apologize for. Quote, I wish I had done more. More? In 1969, they bombed the Haymarket police statue. They bombed several Chicago police cars parked in the precinct parking lot. It is then they decided to go underground, and that's where things really started to heat up. In 1970, they were suspected of a bombing at the Presidio Army base and military police in San Francisco. It was about that time that the three Weather Underground members were killed when the bomb that they were preparing for Fort Dix went off. The National Guard Association building in Washington, D.C., they bombed a NYPD headquarters that Ayers ran from the law, and that's when they went deep underground. It was during that time that he married Bernadine Dorn. But the bombings continued. And let's not forget, 1981, armed truck robbery, which they stole $1.6 million from the truck. It eventually led to a shootout with police, leaving 2 police officers and 1 Brinks guard dead.